Illumination is back with yet another entry in the Despicable Me franchise. And you know what that means? There's about to be a large uptick in Minion memes shared to your grandma's Facebook page. It also means that I have to watch another movie featuring the Minions.
I can't do it! I can't do it again! I've already seen 5 of these movies! What could they possibly do to make this movie unique?
Hang on. Can that Minion fly?
They fly now! They fly now? They fly now!
Well, if they fly now, I have to see it.
They fly now.
The Despicable Me franchise is interesting. The best comparison I can come up with for it is that these movies are like watching a person who's peaked in high school desperately try and fail to recapture the glory days, only moving further and further from them with every attempt. Creatively speaking, of course. Financially, this franchise continues to print money for Illumination and Universal, thanks in no small part to these little freaks. It almost seems like Universal has realized if they just slap a Minion on something, people will instantly pay for it.
Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to please pay your taxes.
No!
How about now?
Ugh, fine.
I'll admit, growing up, I liked the original Despicable Me. Heck, I still believe that it's a pretty good film. Now, is it better than Megamind like Rotten Tomatoes claims? That's up for you to decide. Either way, it's good. And audiences seemed to agree with that sentiment because it made more than $500 million. And you know what happens when an animated movie earns a lot of money? It gets a sequel. Despicable Me 2 was decent. Sure, the villain was a little weaker than Vector, and the plot was a little bonkers, but it wasn't terrible by any means. Unfortunately, this streak of good to decent animated films couldn't last with the release of the Minions movie in 2015.
Uh-oh is right.
This is where these movies kinda started to lose me. After that, we got Despicable Me 3 featuring the incredibly creative and not at all random character of Drew, Gru's twin brother. Gosh, I can't say how much I dislike the secret twin trope in media. Except in Gravity Falls. Gravity Falls can stay. Anyway, following Despicable Me 3, we got Minions 2. Hooray! And that leads us to the latest entry in the series, Despicable Me 4. So, how does this movie stack up to the rest of the movies in the franchise? To answer that question, let's first take a look at the general premise of this movie, because I feel like it had quite a bit of potential. An old rival of Gru's swears revenge on him and his family, so they have to leave their lives, go into hiding, adopt new identities, and attempt to fit in with a new neighborhood. Honestly, not a terrible idea for one of these movies. I can see how a concept like this could lend itself to some funny situations and memorable character moments. And credit where credit is due, there are a few visual and character gags that I genuinely found humorous in this movie. But I'm gonna be honest, for the most part, this movie doesn't really do anything interesting with the setup it's given. In fact, for the first half of this movie, it kind of feels like nothing happens. Sure, we get introduced to Gru's son, who is essentially rip-off Jack from The Incredibles, as well as the villain, Maxim Le Mal, played by Will Ferrell. But besides those couple things, it felt like the first 45 minutes of this movie were just Gru's family and the Minions engaging in pointless, wacky hijinks and nothing else. Oh boy, Lucy is pretending that she knows how to be a hairstylist, but she's actually bad at it. Oh boy, the Minions are being silly. Oh man, Gru is trying to make friends with the neighbors, but he's bad at it. Back to the Minions being goofy. Oh man, the girls are in karate class. Back to the Minions being quirky. Truly riveting stuff. I know that people have made a lot of jokes about recent animated movies being written by AI, and while I don't think this movie was, I'd be lying if I said it doesn't feel like it sometimes. Say what you want about the other movies in this franchise, but at least they felt like actual movies rather than a bunch of random disjointed plotlines stitched together. I wouldn't be surprised if it was revealed that this film was supposed to be a low-budget Despicable Me TV show, but then the higher-ups at Universal said, well, what if we take these episodes and just smash them together for the next movie? Speaking of things in this movie that feel underbaked and not super thought out, the villain in this movie, played by Will Ferrell, is underwhelming. which makes me sad because a small part of me was excited for Will Ferrell to play this movie's villain. This is the same man who played Megamind, master of all villainy. If anyone could play a villain to rival Jason Segel's Vector, it's him. Unfortunately, the character just doesn't do it for me. Not because Ferrell does a bad job, but because the character is just kinda lame. He's a half man, half cockroach guy who has a gun that can turn people into half human, half cockroaches. You guys got Will Ferrell for this movie, and the best you could give him was this? This villain is so lame, even by Despicable Me standards. I'm not gonna act like Vector and El Macho were super deep villains, but at least they had real motivations beyond, I hate Gru because he embarrassed me in high school. Gosh, I can't believe I'm living in the timeline where Will Ferrell was in Despicable Me 4 instead of Megamind 2! The rest of the characters in this film are similarly half-baked. Lucy and the three girls aren't really given much to do. The redhead girl played by Joey King is kinda insufferable. She's clearly there just to appeal to the Gen Zers, and even makes a boomer joke, which made me viscerally cringe. Stephen Colbert's in this movie, okay. The Minions have a small storyline where the Anti-Villain League creates a team of Minion superheroes, and those scenes are fine, even if they have virtually no effect on the main story. I'd say this film primarily focuses on Gru and his son's relationship, but even that story feels undercooked. At the start of the movie, Gru's son hates him, and he kinda hates him the entire movie. That is until the climax of the movie where the writers realized, oh wait, we should probably make it so Gru Jr. doesn't hate Gru anymore. So randomly, at the very end, Gru Jr. decides he likes his dad for no other reason than plot convenience. I know I've been a little negative in this video, so let me talk about some of the stuff I liked. I thought the visuals in this movie looked really good. The environments were incredibly pretty, and there were a number of shots that I thought were pretty impressive as well. I like the design of Gru's high school, even if it just looks like Hotel Transylvania to me. I like how Gru has specific minions who change his son's diaper for him. That's really funny. And despite a lot of the characters feeling lackluster, I will say that the voice acting was pretty good. Nothing mind-blowing, but not bad. Overall, Despicable Me 4 is exactly what you'd expect from Illumination at this point. Maybe one day they will release a movie that matches the first Despicable Me in terms of quality, but I'm not holding my breath. Luckily, Pixar just released Inside Out 2, which was really good, and DreamWorks is about to release The Wild Robot, so the rest of 2024's animated movies are looking pretty good. Disney, you better not mess it up with Moana 2.